Hello, everyone out there. This is DeAnna Batdorf, and I'm with the DeAnna Center, as you all know. And I've just really been enjoying these Q&As that we're doing every other week, and some really incredible topics are coming up, helping us to just navigate these interesting times. I gotta tell you, I think these are always interesting times. It's just another one of our interesting times. And on that topic, I have somebody so interesting with me. This is Heidi Hampe. She is in Idaho, which is where I am. Heidi is here, living and doing amazing digital detox at her rejuvenation sanctuary. And she's in Sagal, Idaho. So if anybody wants to find her, you can find her at, what's your website?
Anthodynamic.com. ANTHRO dynamic, DYNAMIC.com.
Yeah. And we'll say that again later, but I just wanted to do an introduction. I mean, Heidi has got just a plethora of experience in multiple directions, whether that be from pregnancy and birth to hospice care. She works with people. I feel like we have quite a similarity in the fact that we'll kind of work with anybody. And the more involved and the more need for change, the more I think we just kind of like to sink our head and our heart in there and really help people out. So, you know, really, I brought her in today to be able to, not only am I visiting her, but I brought her in because I think it's good to see what does Heidi have to say, you know, and it may not be the same as what I have to say. But I mean, you know, Heidi has a lot to say, and so do I. So I just hope that y'all get a lot from this time together, and we'll see how this goes. And I'm going to start with a question that already came forward, and I already presented it to Heidi also. Somebody came forward and asked a question that has gotten asked on each one of these Q&As so far, which is, these are emotional times. This is challenging times. We're in the middle of a very shared global experience that we are calling a pandemic. And it's really affecting people, whether that being sheltering in place being hard, or whether there's financial hardship, or you're starting to look at all your patterns because you're hanging out at home, and that's where we have a lot of our patterns, is in our home life, you know, in the privacy of our home. And that's what makes it challenging. Everything starts showing up. So I'm gonna ask you, Heidi, on this question of like, what do you do in a pandemic emotionally, and kind of what can you do to just grok and understand the situation we're in? What have you been giving as advice to people?
Yeah. Well, I've been giving advice to people to really sink their hands in the earth, working with as many elements as they possibly can. If they have a garden, if they have a garden that they've always wanted to have a garden, to make the time, make the effort, make the possibilities to make that happen. If they just have a potted plant, or they have a garden, windowsill garden that they can create, to really plant seeds intentionally. You can create your own little medicinal garden on your windowsill, but also planting those seeds of change inside yourself. Like, what is something inside you that you've been wanting to move out, that you want to plant this possibility of transformation in your life, and then watering it every day. You know, watering it with your thoughts, with your love, with a watering can, finding out, where does your water come from? Does it come from your faucet? Does it come from a well? Getting connected to your water. I've just been really having people do research and finding out where their water comes from, what's going on with their, you know, air quality. You can get involved in doing outreach and environmental justice work at home just as much as you can on the front lines. I've been having people just become educated about their actual environment, where we haven't had time. A lot of people running around, having many different jobs, having to run their kids around. Now people have a lot of time. So in that time, just getting to really know the actual elements in your space, that be your apartment, your home, your property, then extending that out into your community. And so that's one of the things that I think is a neat thing to do, and it's empowering and it's educational.
And when you are wondering about where you're going or what's next, or safety, I find, I agree with Heidi. Like the first thing I did when this all went down and we had to just shut the DeAnna Center and change our lives, I just immediately went to the garden. We're in a coffee house, so enjoy all the background noise. This is where we can get Wi-Fi in Idaho. But just really, I just immediately started saying, okay, I want to watch some growth and I want to be inspired by growth. And one of the easiest, just most satisfying ways to see growth is to watch a plant grow, or watch a garden grow. So I'm in total agreement. And the other one that I would mention is going to sound really simple, and these may seem simple, but let me ask you this. If we're giving you simple advice, the question next would be, if it sounds so simple, are you doing it? Because if you're not actualizing it, then it's kind of the I know, syndrome, which is then meaning like you're really avoiding taking care of yourself. So it can be challenging already, but it's like, what are you gonna take action on? And so I just want to remind us also of karma yoga. Karma meaning action. It's not a bad word. It's actually the word of action. And yoga is the word of being in motion. And, like massaging something, tonifying something, which is to bring it together. And so when we look at karma yoga, it's like, how aware can you be even doing your dishes? But it's the taking a bath and not just staying on your phone or watching something, or like, oh, I'm gonna get lost in some music. Like, why not sit with yourself in a bath? Like really have to sit in your own water and breathe, and then just see like how much gets figured out in that time. Sometimes I go and I take a bath, and then all of a sudden I'm busy doing stuff in the kitchen, in the bathroom, and a couple hours have gone by, and then something I was stressed out about went away. Like it got solved. All of a sudden I get another email and it's like, never mind. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a little bit much. I knew when to stop. I just took a moment for me, and then you move forward accordingly. And so I think this has always been important. So it might sound really benign or, kind of boring because we've been talking about it for so long, but we can't forget that now we actually have the time to try it. And that means action is everything, and it's always been there, that wanting to take action. So let's see if we have any other questions as we are diving into this. Hello, everyone here.
Hi, Leslie.
So nice to see you all.
And Ursula.
Oh, and Emily. Oh my gosh, you've been so part of my whole pandemic. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. So we're getting a lot of beautiful highs and hellos. And that's really wonderful, but if anybody wants to shoot out any questions, since this is a Q&A, and let's remember that this is really being, seen as Ask Me Anything, and I mean that, and I think that we're hiding a lot, and we're doing a lot of, shame game, whether that be hiding and eating, or hiding and then saying negative things to yourself. And what is wrong with having imbalances? And what is wrong with talking about whatever that is? So please do feel free to ask us anything. Okay, so a question came through yesterday from Julie. She can be done, what can be done for tennis elbow? Okay, I know some ideas, but Heidi, I have a feeling you already got an idea.
No, I want to hear yours first.
Okay, well, the first idea I have is actually something that Heidi did ritual with yesterday morning. I watched her outside the window while she was picking chamomile flowers and buds, and she was, doing her prayers on her. You can't believe where this person. You really should come to Idaho and get some retreat, because this place is spectacular. I mean, so amazing. But then she also does rituals. So everything you're bringing in, everything that you're taking in Heidi's space has been blessed and respected and really planted accordingly. But I think a chamomile, because it's an amazing anti-inflammatory. Most people that get tennis elbow also get some edema or water and swelling around the area. And chamomile is a really good astringent bitter that tonifies and flushes the fluid out while it cools it down. And since it's a nervine for the nerves, one of the things people get tennis elbow from and where it got its name is from repetitive use. So you could have tennis elbow, you know, like if you're always doing this, or what if you're always playing tennis, literally, you know what I mean? It's the same as carpal tunnel. It's like they're based on overuse. So I would be saying, how much can you rest it and soak it hot, cold at night, since it's getting used a lot. I mean, it's kind of hard not to use your elbow, you know? And then I would think about chamomile, and that could even be like soaking a really strong tea and just putting on cotton pads or on a flannel sheet, and then just wrap that elbow up. And then you could be drinking it too at night, and it'll help you rest if it's hurting you, you know? And it's not a painkiller, so, you know, it's not gonna, you know, not allow you to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. I think that's a big picture in pain, is, you know, you don't want to deaden it off where you don't know the truth. You more just want to keep it in a strongest state ever, but then when you overuse it, it can still talk to you. Yeah. What do you have to say? What would you do for tennis elbow?
I think that what you said was really good. I just always go back to doing castor oil packs, unmedicated castor oil packs, like just depending on how bad it is, but you know, like just soaking the oil, wrapping it up, and putting a hot pad on it, and then doing a cold afterwards, you know, like I'm a castor oil addict. I mean, and then I do also high concentrated salt soaks for pretty much everything that's wrong with me. I mean, those are my go-tos. Yeah. And but definitely the chamomile, I totally agree, and that will help you in this time that we're in. It'll help with that deep underlying stress. So I think that you pretty much got it all.
Yeah.
DeAnna, yeah.
Well, you just got a whole protocol out of us. I hope you do it. The other thing I would say is something like tennis elbow is going to need repetitive use. So if you try this once a week, you might notice it calms it down, but you're probably going to end up, you know, back in the same place. So just keep in mind that can you give yourself a 30-day challenge? Because you could change something like that a lot in 30 days. But it's just, are you willing to take the 30-day challenge and say, I'm at this time every day, I'm gonna do this for a half hour, you know, and then it becomes part of your daily ritual, and you get to see it change and change and change. But it's gonna take that long for that to even get to a place where it could heal.
What about high dose vitamin C too? For
high dose vitamin C. I also thought about magnesium, you know, because it's just everything pain and muscle. The more structurally, or you know, you're having issues, the more magnesium is getting utilized.
And then like working out.
And then the gua sha with that castor, where you could just go in and really look at like what's a rubber band
here.
And yeah. And the other thing, you know, Heidi does in her retreats is she does colon hydrotherapy, and she has a whole setup in her space.
That'll help with your tennis elbow.
And that would help with the tennis elbow. Well, it will.
Okay.
Why will it? Because right through here runs all of our blood and our digestive meridians. So when things are going on with the elbow, I always have to think about blood flow, circulation, and then I have to think about the small intestine and what's called the tridosha burner. Triple burner is what most people know it from Chinese medicine, but in Ayurvedic medicine from India, we would be calling that the tridosha burner. And that's really your, you know, three, and that's the unit of your GI tract. So using your stomach, and then it feeds out to small intestine, and then that is how we get nutrients out to our lymph and our blood and our muscle and our skin and our bones and our nerves. Feeds the tissues from the gut, And then anytime you have any excess, it's going to have to go via the colon to really get out of our body so that it, isn't affecting us. So sometimes there can be a lot of acidic, not just lactic acid tissues, but there can be a lot going on that's compacted in here that then is pushing out into the nervous system, which is what we call the meridians.
I like that.
They're our autonomic nervous system, Yeah, like I like to talk about, they didn't just go through and say like, wow, let's make this the stomach on the face and let's make this the lung line. You know what I mean? Like they opened up the body and they followed those nerve lines and they saw that they directly related to organs in the body. Autonomic nervous system is your organs connected to your nervous system. And then that's how they started tracking those organs according to their emotions. So I don't know if we all know the emotions of all the organs. I don't usually kind of lay them out, but I'm kind of feeling it right now. So I'm going to start from the first organ because I don't find enough people that talk about stomach and dental. But everything that's going on in here is getting down into your gut. Unless you're, oil pulling or rinsing and spitting it out. Everything's going back in. Cavity is a bacteria. Drip, slow drip. So we have to think about dental, but stomach is the first organ, and it is important because it's the compost pile of the body. So you've got to have some water in there. It's called our probiotic flora, like our microbiome is liquid. And you got to have some water on the compost. You got to have some hydrochloric acid, which is the acidic base, whenever you need to fire up and stoke that compost. And then you also need to think about when is it, need an alkaline cool down, So pH balance, how much hot and cold does that stomach compost pile need of food? And then how much liquid does it need to break down? The more liquid in your food, the more you don't have to worry about so much the liquid in your body, That's why I tell a lot of people who are dry, I'm like, just eat out of a bowl because your food should be so wet it would roll off a plate, and then all of a sudden they have a visual to really think about. But the stomach is fear. And so fear, now think about that right now. What's going in, because we are a byproduct of what's going in. We eat our emotions, and fear is the first emotion. This is a little different than Chinese medicine, just, and so really think for yourself. If there's two different emotions showing up, you get to decide, or maybe they both make sense, So think about that fear and making sure you're not eating with fear, or thinking about things that scare you while you're eating. Like that really changes the pH balance of your stomach. But you want it to turn all your food down into liquid. It's called chyme, CHYME. And you want everything to turn down to liquid and mulch through, and then it goes down into the small intestines, which is the largest, most long kind of involved part of the plumbing, And the small intestine is going to have all those enzymes and supporters from the gallbladder helping you break down oil, and the pancreas over here to the left helping you to help with electrolytes and enzymes. And so we have helpers. We have the gallbladder to the right on the masculine side, and with the pancreas over here on the feminine side, and they work together to see what food is coming down the line, and it spits out some bile to help break down that fat, or spits out some enzymes and glucose and electrolytes whenever there's a carb. So your gallbladder helps you with oil, and your pancreas helps you with carbohydrate breakdown. And as that turns to liquid, it seeps out into the bloodstream. Well, if we look at the emotion in this function, the emotion of your small intestine is anxiety. So the moment we, or I don't know, and think about it, fear and anxiety, sometimes I'm not sure which one I'm really experiencing. So I know they're involved because one organ feeds the other. So there's the anxiety, and the more we kind of hold in our psoas, our solar plexus, or have to overprotect or defend, well, guess what? Your intestines go, they do the same thing because they're just little muscle rings. And so the more you hold, the more those, peristalsis rings are going to hold too. And it blocks everything up in there, which is what Heidi's trying to get out of people's bodies. And that, then think about this one. The next one's colon. Your colon really is only helping you to just get waste out. that you either didn't digest, or it wasn't good for you, or it was even die off, scaly die off. And it's just about getting that stuff out of there so you stay healthy. And the colon is indecision. So they always say you never have a colon problem unless you had a stomach, small intestine issue, because they're above the, they're ahead of the line. And so you don't have an indecision until there's been anxiety that's already kind of ruling you, or fear that's ruling you. So far we've talked about this tridosha, this triple burner, which is the seat of our fire and helping like ether and air and water and earth. Vata Kapha are opposites. They're constantly, doing the little balancing act. It's the fire in between, taking action. Pitta means focus. It's that fire in between that has to just be really generating. I think about it as like the engine in a car, and then there's all the other pieces it feeds out to that then make the car tick and run. So it's the epicenter. And fear and anxiety and indecision are the epicenter of our health. Then we have our liver over here to the right. It's about the size of 2 hands, fully extended, so it goes way back. It's protected by the rib cage and the diaphragm. And that liver, has 600 jobs every day, and that's probably why it is the emotion of anger. Because if any little thing isn't going right, that liver is going to have to be like, what's going on? We got to get this done. This is about efficiency. And so, gets a little fired up. And then we have the spleen, which is the size of 1 hand extended over here to the left side, on the feminine side. And it's dependent on the liver. So the more the liver can do all of its job, the more it can send over the needs of your spleen, which is your immune organ. Okay? It's your immunity organ. Some people can't even really, say what the spleen does. They just know they maybe have one, or they've heard of it before. It's your immune organ that feeds out to your lymphatic system, which is your immune system. Spleen is resentment. So anger, liver anger, and then we've got this other side of it that's like getting resentful, which is like unresolved anger. Okay? Heart is attachment, and they also see it as envy, like jealousy, like, boiling blood. So we know that we've got the attachment and jealousy that show up in heart. And the kidneys are guilt or shame. In Chinese, they're fear, and guilt is stomach. So I don't know how that got crossed over, but I just kind of think of them both. But shame and guilt are the same word in Ayurveda, and I find that to be an interesting topic through the years.
Interesting, yeah.
Very interesting topic through the years with clients and myself. On like, what is guilt and what is shame, and how much of this is shame versus me really feeling guilty about something. Because we do a lot of shame game in our world, and it's a problem. And we all find ourselves doing it. We all find ourselves experiencing it. Very loud in here, but hope you can still enjoy us. Roll with it. That's what the world is about right now. Roll with it. Like, just, you gotta go with it. Whatever's there, we have to let things start just coming together no matter what.
Just be present and keep breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I just spoke of quite a few organs and their emotions, which is just what came from me, I'm curious if that brought up any thoughts for you, or do you know of any plants that are specific for those emotions?
Me?
Yeah. Yes, you.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of plants. I'm sure there's lots of plants for the emotions, but the one thing that came up for me when you were talking, just because I deal with a lot of colon hydrotherapy and people's large intestine, is that all those times that you have those feelings of like anxiety or fear and you're kind of clenching, your large intestine ends up getting twisted, and it gets kinked, and it doesn't look like those textbook beautiful like large intestines that you see in the book.
It's like up
no.
and over and down.
It really just isn't. And so what I find is people that come to me that have a lot of anxiety, they have a lot of fear, they have a lot of trepidation, they have a really hard time with their elimination cycle. So what I work with them is you can do cold hydrotherapy and you can do a 10-day cleanse, you can do all these things, but until you change your relationship to your environment, until you change the way that you handle, or do you respond or do you react to those emotions that come up, until you learn how to like unwind and open up and allow universal life energy to just flow through you, allow the emotions not become attached to them, and breathe through them and allow your intestines to unwind, you're going to continually have a problem. It's just like they come to me, they get good, and then a couple years later they need to start the whole process again because they're not changing those underlying patterns that are creating this like twisting and this backed up situation. So that's one thing I wanted to mention, and also how hydration is critical. I know DeAnna always talks about hydration, and hydration is super critical for people that are also dealing with emotions of fear and anxiety, because they become so involved with those. They don't breathe and they're not drinking water, which are like some like top things you got to do. Like you're a plant. Basically, we're just a plant with legs. So you need good oxygen, you need to be drinking water, you need to stay hydrated. Those people that have all that anxiety, that fear, they come to me, they have a lot of plaque in their, the dried toxicity that sticks on the side of the large intestine that doesn't allow the
Mucoid
nutrients.
plaque.
Yeah, that stuff. If you're able to stay hydrated and liquefied and you're moving the emotions through, it's all about moving things through. When you have that fear and anxiety, it's because something happened that was startling, and then you get so into it that you start feeding. It's like ice, don't you think? Like people feed fear, they feed anxiety. Like it's just kind of this like never-ending cycle. Then they're not drinking, they're not breathing, and then they're poo, but you're still eating, right? Most people are still eating, and so then it just is sitting there, and it gets hard, and you're not getting a good, what is it, like the nutrients that go through the large intestine into the bloodstream,
Yeah, you're not getting all your vitamins and your micronutrients.
Your
vitamins,
your micronutrients.
your minerals, your enzymes, your glucose. You're not getting those things fed through.
And then that affects your brain. So then, because there's the gut connection to the large intestine, the gut, all of it's connected to then how you're thinking. And are you feeding your brain so that you can make conscious choices, and so that you're not making your decisions based off of fear, like all of your
Yeah.
yeah.
And, if you've ever looked at a picture of the brain, and if you've ever looked at a picture of the intestines, they look very, very similar. And then if you look back in time and you look at a lot of our archetypal, kind of headdresses, and a lot of like almost, especially if you just think about like Buddha or, you know what I mean? And you can see that it's like they're showing, their idea of like the brain, and often have things connected where there'll be lines, feeding down to their gut. So this is a long-standing thing that we've been talking about that is so real. And I think I'd like to add into something Heidi said, because it's such a good point of like, if you're holding in your gut, if you're holding in all your crap, because that's what we do. I mean, we do it too, and then we have to clean out, you know what I mean? So it's not like it's like, you're going to get clean and everything's perfect. It's just not going to happen. You're going to go back 2 years later, hopefully with less.
Yeah, hopefully with less.
And better quality of life in your health, which is, more energy, more luster. But a really important piece in there is knowing where you hold your patterns. So something I try to help people with when I'm doing body work is recognizing the holding patterns, because I just noticed one day that I always just kind of give up my core. And that makes me kind of slump here, but to be honest, I'm like giving up my will in my diaphragm. And I'll just and it's the very area that I don't love about my body. So of course, first off, look at yourself in the mirror. What you don't like, you can be guaranteed that's one of your weaknesses. Stop beating yourself up for that and see what you can change. Like, see what you're going to do about it. What does it connect to? But I just noticed I just kind of gave up. I didn't tonify. I didn't hold. I was like, bleh. And I was like, wait a minute. And I started tracking, like, how many times do I do this when I'm feeling this deflation? Or beating myself up in my head, and it's not even what somebody else said to me. And then I'm just like, yeah, I'm nobody. And it just happens. And I had to really tonify up. I had to start, going and thinking about, like, what is my diaphragm and how am I holding myself? And am I breathing? Am I owning that space? I wasn't taking ownership of my will. So some people are just like so bound up in their core and their psoas, and their holding pattern is going to be tight every time something happens. Some people go, and then I'm like, oh, I saw that. I don't immediately be like, what's that? But I'm like, I find a good moment to be like, wait, I saw that body language, And then I'll say, I noticed when you were feeling angry, or I was trying to help you with some food changes, which are always the biggest trigger.
Yeah.
I noticed you kind of cringed up. I'm just curious if you want to track that pattern. Because the more I can read my body, I can start reading where I'm going emotionally. So I'm not just spinning out and landing there and then losing a whole day, because I'm sorry, but people do that. And sometimes we all do that, And really, that was a perfect example of a truth coming forward. Like, that's the beauty of a child, just having the innocence to just be like, I'm affected. Ah! You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just get to, and think about breath. Like, sometimes, with breath, I think about this. Like, children are like, and it's so perfect because they're actually releasing what's not working. And then we get older and we're like, suck it up. You know what I mean? It's like, suck it in, suck it up, keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? Keep your composure. And like, we start acting and responding and being that way. Whereas kids, they're like, ah! Yeah. And it's like, how perfect actually is that? I mean, I know we don't all as adults want to give everybody, full range to scream out loud all day long, because some people don't have the boundaries for that. But if you do, you might want to think about that in your home too. Like, how much is bottled up? How much can you check out how you're holding yourself and where? What's bottled up? And you do have a little more breathing room right now to do some expression. You could take it into a crazy painting, but you could also take it into just, just like, sometimes I just need some space to get a load off, and I'm not pissed off about something. I've just got stuff bottled up. And I'm finally realizing it's stuck in there, and I need to find a way to move it. So yes, you can meditate, you can take walks. I'm all about like getting out into nature, get in the garden, breathe, take a bath. But I do want to make sure that we talk about action and rightful action. And action starts with you recognizing what's affecting you and how you're going to turn it around. The only way we change patterns is by doing the opposite, because the only way we got into a pattern was by doing something repetitively.
Yeah, if you don't have a garden, you could take some seeds and you could go out into your cities, there's dirt somewhere. You find the dirt and you start planting seeds. You can plant food seeds, you can plant herb seeds, because you need more of those things. If you live in a city, you need that. You can plant them in a guerrilla style where you know that they're going to do well, they're going to get watered. Maybe it's by some ornamentals or something like that. You can go visit that seed, you can watch it grow, and you're not even having to necessarily water it. You just have to keep going and feeding it love, feeding it energy, and watch it grow. Plant that seed with whatever intention it is that you want to see change in the world. You want to see more edibles, more medicinals being grown around your cities or your local towns. This is for the people that don't have gardens, that DeAnna was saying. People say they don't have a place and maybe they don't want to have a pot of dirt in their window or something like that. Then you can still plant seeds. There's no reason not to plant seeds. I really love that idea. Like, I've never thought about that, like going into a town and
thinking about like, I'm gonna plant some calendula over there.
I do.
I'm gonna put that chamomile in there. Like I got an extra little Tulsi starter. Like all of a sudden they have this sacred plant in their town.
Yeah.
And how many people get to enjoy that?
Yeah.
Who would probably stop at that calendula and be like, oh my God, look
Yeah.
how orange and beautiful that is. Is that a daisy? They'd have to wonder because it's daisy-ish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet is different color, grows different.
Yeah. And have
So,
conversations.
Love that.
Yeah, it brings conversations. Yeah. Well, the other thing, DeAnna, you have some real beautiful medicinal jewelry that I see you wear sometimes. That's so elemental and in prayer form. Where do you get some of those medicine pieces?
Yeah, what's really bad is I didn't wear one today, which is
I
kind of
noticed.
interesting. You should have told me.
That's okay. I just noticed like 10 minutes ago.
No, I have some really, really beautiful pieces that I have gotten from Heidi through the years. We kind of, share, different things like that. Like she's got some pieces I love in her house that are like, things.
I have an original piece from the Atkinson house.
Actually came from the original DeAnna Center in Albuquerque.
I have one of those.
Yeah, she has an original
in my
piece.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she makes the most beautiful jewelry. And I mean, like, just earth. I mean, elemental earth, sacred pieces. And they're perfectly, I like that you do even small pieces for people who want small. I like kind of bigger, chunky, in your face kind of jewelry.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you make those too.
Yeah, some of them get planted in the earth. Some of them get put in water for a certain amount of moon cycles. Sometimes they get hung in a tree, more air element. There's always a medicine that's kind of happening that's coming in the planet whenever I'm making some pieces, and then they get charged that way. And that helps balance the elements and the emotions in people. So I like doing that. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah. And, there's a few other things Heidi makes, which is these beautiful gourds and wooden spoons and like pizza flats. That's kind of what I think of them.
I don't
those
do them.
Like, oh, you don't do those anymore? Oh, she used to do these amazing mandalas. The whole time she was in class with me, she just drew mandalas as she was like bringing in that knowledge. And then every once in a while she'd give me, like, I have 3 different mandalas. The first one's my favorite. But, the jewelry's beautiful and all your fabric. Like, you have a lot of
Beautiful fabric.
you have beautiful things. Yeah. So you should really, follow Heidi around and see where she is. Because she does some traveling too, even though she's pretty hunkered down here in Idaho now.
Yeah.
But it's like she travels around and, and
I used to. We'll
makes
see
it
what
happen.
happens.
Yeah. Looks like Andrea says 4 people are watching us, but I don't see anyone here. So I want to say thank you for
Thank you.
You're being so when that last live video, because we are going to end since things are a little challenging here, but in that last video, just as we were leaving, I want to make one point for the 4 people who came back. Okay, for the 4 people who came back, I just want to end on a really high note, which is we thought it was interesting that like our screen went dark and we're in the middle of this very important Q&A that is live on Facebook, and how much we used our laughter instead of getting stressed out or worried or like, is everybody okay? Is this professional or not? We really just kind of said, wow, this is really interesting. The world is going dark.
But we're still live.
And we're still live. So we're like, we're alive and everything is dark and the truth is being told.
Yeah.
And so, really let yourself do that. Think about laughter yoga, laugh, put on some music, dance. Please do not forget to play. When I feel the most crappy, I'm like, I gotta do something to turn this around. And so laughter's the way out. And I just want to remind you to go with the flow, because we don't have any choice. And we're doing a lot of avoidance because there's been a lot of ways to get lost in the world, and just change your flow before anything's done. And just keep in mind, you don't have the same avoidance, factor. Like everything is in our face, and it's our duty to figure out how we want to take action and how do we want to be the best people we can be, so we really can go out and change a lot of this darkness, because there's a lot of power struggle going on now. This isn't just, oh my gosh, I don't want to get a virus and die,
Yeah.
That's the simplest of the situation, actually, because that's just, a way to go and something that's there. But we really have to start thinking about the power struggle in our systems. And just where are we feeling like this is abusive or not appropriate or not working for us. And everyone's going to have their own, opinions, and we have to respect each other's opinions. Heidi and I had a really great epiphany the first night I was here, which was 2 days ago or something. But I felt the epiphany. I think you did too. We've had two little epiphanies, correct me if I'm wrong. But the first one was kind of, we realized that we ultimately both believe that everybody gets to choose.
Yeah.
So if we get to choose what our beliefs are, and as passionately as we might even hold that opinion and that core belief, everybody gets to choose. If we get to choose, we have to live with everybody else's choices. I don't have to like everybody's choices, but I do inevitably believe that would level the playing field, and it would create a different environment if everybody just really held to their truths and then created communities around their truths. We can't just want everyone to be like us and believe what we believe. Inevitably, we all get to choose. And I think it's a bigger, more fair playing field. And it's going to take a lot of facing fears and a lot of trust to let everybody choose, because that's going to have some goods and some bads on every level, and then the other epiphany I remember that was yesterday is we both were talking about God, and concepts around godliness and what is that beautiful overriding, and both of us kind of we were both like, me too, oh my God, me too. And we both agreed that ether, air, fire, water, earth, the elements are the ultimate of that, the ultimate of the creation. It is under our feet and it is surrounding us, and we would never be alive without those 5 elements. We wouldn't exist at all. And we wouldn't have anything that we love out there or the nature that we're trying to get to without ether, air, fire, water, earth. And so I really want to, make sure we're putting forward some of our truths and choices, and just, what are we talking about and trying to see needs to change at this time. And Idaho is a great place to look at that, because there's a lot of different diversity than California, and there's different choices, being made, and they need to be respected just like any other choice. It comes down to respect, mutual respect, and everybody gets to choose. And so maybe you could go in and look at just what are your choices? Think about yours and take action from your choices. Don't worry about everybody else's. Don't worry about who's saying what or what's going on or, all the politics. You need to get down to your truth, and you need to take action from your truths. And I really believe we would get along a lot better in this world if we all really got down to those core foundations. Anything you want to add to that concept?
Well, just making sure that you are realizing that they're your truths, and asking yourself the questions like, do you believe those things because it's your friend group, or because there's a big movement that a lot of people believe those things? And are you asking the harder questions of yourself to look outside whatever basket or box that you might normally sit comfortably in? Putting yourself in other people's shoes and see why do they believe those things, and maybe just open your heart and your mind to just look at different research and different things like that. and that might help you maybe find a really strong piece of yourself that you might have given away a long time ago, because you were wanting to be a part of something. And we all want to be a part of something. We're humans and we do well in a way like that. But I just ask people to do a lot of research and a lot of questioning and figure out, why do you believe what you believe, and follow that tale as far back as you can, because that's just a story. It's a tale, right? So follow that all the way back and see where that came from, and does that really sit with your highest self and your deepest truth, and then move from that, act upon that, what is actually true for you at your core. Yeah. So
That's Dharma, following your true path. It's not just doing one thing for the rest of your life. It's like, what is true in your path, and you do that. And then everything lands where it lands because you're in your truth. You got to trust that.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, this is Heidi Hampe.
Well, technically you don't say the E.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was going to change my last name anyways, because it's all property stuff. So like your name was because it is all about property, right? And then if you get married, because you're your dad's property technically, and then like when you get married, you're supposed to change your last name to that guy because it really all comes down to property. So I was going to change my last name, but it costs too much money. Anyways, it's Hamp, but it doesn't really. I changed it to Olfa for a little bit.
Uh-huh.
My name was She-Wolf. So on Facebook, I was Heidi Olfa. Okay.
That's great. Yeah, and again, she's in Sagal, Idaho, and she's got the Rejuvenation Sanctuary. And say your website one more time.
Anthrodynamic.com.
Right on. All right, thank you so much for joining us. May you have as wonderful of a day as
We will.
I believe we will.